I went ahead and sent you a shirtless picture of Michael Hoyt on Discord.
Ooh.
And if you look, he does look like a big human, but he does not look like a roided up human. Well, he's, dad bod for sure. He's man in the grill, and he is the one guy you don't want to mess with.
Welcome back to One Life Bills podcast. Today, we will be discussing the progress with the Buffalo Bills in week 1 of free agency. We have a special guest on the podcast today, Tyler Hevers. Go ahead and tell us what you do here. He's the man behind the keyboard doing all the magic on our videos.
Yeah. So like Josh said, my name is Tyler. I am the video editor for the One Life podcast / YouTube channel / variety channel. So yeah, no, I'm a marketer by trade, but I love doing video editing on the side. So I'm glad to be working with these guys. I am also a seasoned Bills fan for the last 30 years of my life. So I feel I have experience enough to talk on the podcast with the boys about everything the Bills have been up to in the last week, and looking forward to discussing it with you guys.
Yeah,
Awesome.
100%. We're excited to have you on.
Yes,
Happy
we
to have your real face on here, not your AI art version of your face.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to actually, people can put a face to the name and not just seeing like who's this redheaded dude in this, like you said, this AI image. That was fun to create.
All right, Adam. Well, you're captain of the ship today. Why don't you tell us what our first topic of the day is?
All right, so the first thing we're going to go through is the key players that we have re-signed this year. So players that were either going to be free agents, were free agents, or had 1 year left on their deal. However, we might have signed. And where better to start than the man, the myth, the legend, Joshua Patrick Allen.
Yes, sir.
We
Let's talk
signed
big
the
money.
man to a 6-year contract, giving the man $250 million right off the bat. Terry Pegula signing that big check to Joshua Allen. We're getting him for $55 million per year. So that's pretty good for, the best quarterback in the sport.
Where does that compare to other top paid quarterbacks in the league? I'm not sure about.
So that's about equal to what Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa and who else signed last year? Trevor Lawrence signed last year.
That's hilarious.
So basically, every quarterback that's not as good as Josh Allen is making as much money as Josh Allen.
100%.
Tell us more about this huge deal that he's got. What does this man deserve going forward, and what can we expect out of him?
So, as for what he deserves, what I had for him is that we were going to sign a 3-year extension with him, which technically this is only a 2-year kind of extension, but they just tore up the whole contract, rebuilt it. And I was thinking that they were going to pay him $60 million per year. So that's $5 million per year that I think he gave the Bills, right? I think in this overall contract, that's $5 million per year, 6 by 5. That's $30 million that he's like, you know what? What's $30 million when I'm making $330 already?
I think he had like an interview when after he signed that contract, and he said that, like, what's an extra $5 million per year for me? He's like, I have a house, I have a car, he didn't say it, but it's like, I'm getting married to Haley Steinfeld. Like, what more do I need?
Yeah.
So what? He was offered $5 extra million. Is that what you're saying?
No. So like his agent for sure could have gotten him an extra $5 million and then maybe some more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
right.
Why do you think that they didn't pursue that any further?
Just because Josh Allen didn't want to hamstring his team, right?
Oh.
That's $5 million.
That's selfless. That's
sure.
selfless.
Yeah,
$5 million. Yes, it's nothing compared to $60 million, but at the same time, like that, there's a lot you can do for your family and family's family with that money. It's very selfless of him to be okay with shorten it a little bit for the betterment of the team.
Right. And like kind of thinking of that, like I know in hindsight, when you look at like Tom Brady's career, he was never, I think, the top paid quarterback in the league. I might not know the full stats on that, so I'll do the research afterwards and put any numbers up here on screen if I need to. But I'm pretty sure he always kept his salary at a reasonable rate or like a little bit lower so that he could afford to have the weapons around him. And that's why they continued to stay a dynasty for, 10, 15, 20 years.
100%. And like the other thing with Tom Brady is at the time he was married to Gisele Bündchen, who was one of the highest earning supermodels in the world.
So they were chilling.
Yeah, so they were chilling. And like Josh Allen is getting married to Haley Steinfeld, who is a fucking Avenger.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
She's got that MCU money. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll say, and again, in relation to the Josh Allen thing, we'll go throughout this podcast. We'll make notes and references to it. But we'll kind of harken back to Adam's predictions a couple weeks ago and what his ideal offseason looked like. So going down the list, I will give you 1 for 1 on looking on extending Josh Allen. Obviously, it wasn't exactly to what you had, but hey, it's still a smart prediction, and we'll count it right for that.
All right, let's go. One for one. Let's see if my average holds. Those of you who have watched the previous video will probably know the result of my average. All right, talking about the next player that we extended, we got Terrell Bernard signing a 4-year contract with $12.5 million per year. Tyler, what do you think about that deal?
I thought it was good. I think it was like a little bit higher than we had originally kind of thought. I think it was the exact same time frame though. I think you predicted 4 years at like 8 million or something. I have your numbers here. I'll look at that in a second. But anyway, yeah. So I think that's great. He's captain of our defense. He's the voice out there. He's just an amazing presence to have out there. And I saw recently today too. He's also changing his number.
He's changing his number.
Yes,
what's he going to?
He's going to number 8. So he was 46, 40 something. Now he's going to number 8. So
that's an interesting switch.
I didn't read into it. It might probably have something to do with what his number was in college or high school. It's what a lot of players do when they join a team that they can't get their number that they've had for their whole football collegiate career. To now it's like, okay, they had to change it or they went to a new team, blah blah blah. So he's going back to 8 for whatever his personal reasons are, but so that'll be a little different on the field. You're gonna have to look out for that number and not his original. I think it's 43 or 46. I forget.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, Tyler, but I'm a little old school on numbers in that I like my linebackers being in the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
So like I'm conflicted about this because like number 8 is a weird number for a linebacker, but you know what? Maybe Mans is just trying to camouflage himself back there. Maybe
Here we go.
Maybe they're going to be like, oh, that's number 8. Well, he's a defensive back.
Right.
Definitely not that.
Right. I mean, so like seeing like a single digit number, you're going to think, yeah, that's like what, like a Taron Johnson or whomever out there. That's a single digit. You're like, and like Terrell Bernard, like he's a big dude. I mean, in comparison to others, but he's not like Matt Milano, like, built horizontally like that. So he'll be a lot easier to blend in on a, crossing routes or on a blitz. You're going to be like, oh, it's just a corner coming in here. But no, you've got big man TB8 now coming in there.
TB8. I like it.
That was, I can't take that credit. I think that's what the Bills social media posted. So
that's a sick nickname. Now I'm excited to have Bernard back. I mean, is he a all-star player across the league? No, but he's done very well for the Bills, and I'm very glad to see him back on the field. I think we need more weapons back there, but I think that's a great place to start as far as high caliber talent.
100%. And as for my number that I had for him, I had him 4 years, $6.7 million a year. So he got almost double what I predicted. But like people heavily underestimate linebackers, and you know what the Bills value more than anything else is leadership capabilities, and he's the captain. He's got that green dot. He's the brains of that defense, right? So like maybe they were like, okay, he is a linebacker who traditionally would not get paid as much, but because he has all of these extra added aspects of his game, that's why they gave him more money. which I understand for sure.
Okay, well, I might be messing up your outline for today, Adam, but I'm
Okay.
highly upset. You're talking about we want to keep the leaders in the locker room. Why did we send Hollins over to the Patriots?
Oh no.
Why did we let that
I
happen?
wasn't mentally prepared for this, Joshua. I was mentally prepared to do this later in the podcast, but you know what? Screw it. Let's get into it now.
But I'm
Matt
upset at
Collins,
this moment.
We free in the feet, and he's going to New England. Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
That hit the group chat pretty hard. That was hard to see. Because he was a full-on free agent, right? Like it wasn't
full free agent.
So
Yeah.
Could go to anywhere.
yeah, it was one of those things where he just I'm assuming he wanted a little bit more money that we just unfortunately weren't able to or willing to pay him.
What'd they pay him?
He had a 2-year
Let's see.
30 million deal.
Yeah,
I
so-
forget.
Yeah, he got paid by the Patriots. The Patriots had that money to burn this year. They had a ton of cap space, like 60, 70 million, something like that.
You know, Hollins, you know, like you guys have said in previous episodes, like he is just like the man. Like he's a dude that I would want to hang out with. As like weird as I think he is, he also just seems like a really fun, down to earth guy to talk to.
Just great
And
energy.
yeah, he's great energy, probably an awesome voice in that locker room. So yeah, if this was like the 2000s or the early 2010s and he went to the Patriots, like I think I'd be a lot more hurt because that rivalry was much more bitter and strong. Now it's just kind of like, you know, the Patriots are, you know, dead last in our division, or, you know, they're really not a threat. Does it still hurt? Obviously, like we're gonna have to play against him 2 times throughout the season, and you know his presence was just, you know, amazing to have, and to kind of, you know, you root for the man, and but you don't like the team. You're kind of in a little you know, juxtaposed there.
100%. Like what I'm hoping is Matt Collins has 1,000 yards and makes a couple of incredible pass blocks, but the Patriots lose 16 games.
Right.
Well, so do you think that he's worth the money that the Patriots paid for him? Do you think the Bills should have coughed that up somehow?
Yeah, so circling back to his contract, his contract was a 2-year, total $8.4 million, but can get up to 10.4. So at max, it's 2 years, $5 million per year. As for the Bills are far more cap strapped than the Patriots are, for sure. And I think it could have been worth it if the Bills didn't get a different wide receiver in free agency. So right. I think the main factor is the Bills went and got a different wide receiver in free agency, and Matt Collins is, you know, not quite as good as the guy that they got. Let's go back to and do a quick rundown of all of the other extensions and guys that we kept. We did an extension of Khalil Shakir. We'll go into him deeper because, you know, we like that guy. We extended Greg Rousseau. We re-signed Reed Ferguson. We also re-signed Ty Johnson, DeMar Hamlin. Alec Anderson happened before our last podcast, and Reggie Gilliam. Going into what I predicted us re-signing Khalil Shakir. That was good. I did a good job on that one, I think.
Yep.
The Bills knew that they had to get that guy back on the team.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Because they needed to lock him down for as long as we have Josh Allen, we need Khalil Shakir. Like they're the new duo.
Yeah. I'm doing great so far. Josh Allen, TB, Khalil Shakir. That's where things start to fall off, gentlemen.
What's next?
Reed Ferguson. I assumed that we were going to re-sign him really late because, you know, he's a long snapper. I don't really care too much. Moving on. Ty Johnson. I thought we'd let Ty Johnson walk because I didn't think we'd be able to afford what someone else is going to pay him. DeMar Hamlin. I also thought we were going to let DeMar Hamlin walk in free agency. Because of those guys, some of those guys that we signed, we're not going to get any compensatory picks next year. Just accept it. Move on. Alec Anderson, we already know. I thought we were going to let Reggie Gilliam walk. Did I mention I thought Greg Rousseau was going to get traded?
Yeah, you
Yes,
put
you
him in a blockbuster trade with the Browns to get Myles Garrett.
Yes.
Which we can talk later on who we wish we signed and who we didn't get to sign. But yeah, you were thinking letting or trading away Greg Rousseau. So it's been a tumultuous prediction period for you right now.
How do you guys feel about the guys that we're re-signing?
I would say like I feel like okay with it. Kind of echoing what Adam said. Like I'd have been okay with DeMar Hamlin walking, and same with Reggie Gilliam. I think with those two though, it comes more down to, they're with obviously DeMar Hamlin, the whole situation that we've had with him. He's been a part of the team through thick and thin, through his own, trials and tribulations that like it almost feels like he has to be a Bill until something, else. And so somebody else is able to offer him like more money. And I don't think like, while he had a good year, I think he's just he's a very average safety. Him and Rapp have like good awareness and good knowledge, but they're not big guys that are going to make like game changing plays. And Reggie Gilliam, that man's been on the Bills for what feels like 20 years. So I feel like we just kind of gotta. They're just like he's more of a special teams guy, but he's also that fullback when it comes to a tush push or some certain types of plays. So I feel like the Bills are, as long as we can keep him for like a low price, I'm okay with that. And it seems like we signed them just 1 year deals for reasonable. I say it like it's a little bit amount, but it's just a couple $1 million.
Yeah, just throw $1 million here,
Well,
throw
it's
a
a
couple
small
million
million.
there. Yeah,
Well,
no. Go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, I just was going to say, I hope that I'm right in thinking that DeMar Hamlin still has growth to be made in the NFL. This is only his third year in the league?
No, this is his fifth or sixth year.
I'm
He's
trying to
a free,
remember.
He was a free agent. He wasn't a first round pick, so this is his fifth year.
Fifth year? Okay.
He'd be going into his fifth year, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think that after his, life-risking injury, he came back a much better player the following year when he played. And I think he saw a lot of growth within the season. I still think that there's more to see from DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah, in general, I agree. My biggest hope, though, is that DeMar Hamlin doesn't see the field at safety because Cole Bishop beats him out in camp, and it ends up being a better safety than DeMar, because I think Cole Bishop has all of the athletic potential at safety, and I would love it if he were so good that they couldn't start DeMar, because I like DeMar Hamlin. He's a top 60 safety in the league. So he's a starter in the league, but I would put him in like the 30s probably. And Cole Bishop has the potential to be a top 5 safety. So I think my ideal is that he's on the team as a special teamer, as a depth player, guy who goes in when someone gets hurt in the defensive backfield. But I really hope Cole Bishop turns out to be a spectacular player. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with these guys who we re-signed?
No, I mean, I'm glad to see, some of the players that were there last year of a great dynamic to still be in the mix. But I'm excited to hear what changes that we've made, because I am not as frequent in the NFL media as either of these guys, most likely. Some of the stuff I'm hearing today is going to be the first time I heard it, so I'm very excited.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, no, I'd say like I know you mentioned it, but I was surprised we kept Ty Johnson, given the situation of like he was very much deserving of a starting spot, of being an RB1 somewhere. But I love him, so I'm glad that we're keeping him. And obviously we'll go down the line later in the episode on talking about people we still have yet to sign. But I guess what we got for him is going to also be contingent on what we can do to keep James Cook potentially.
Yeah, and speaking of James Cook, I feel like that's our next bet, is guys who are currently on the team that we could still re-sign. The big name in that scenario being James Cook. With James Cook, it's starting to get a little contentious. I still think these are all negotiation tactics by Cook, trying to get as much money as he can get, right? Because he's a running back, and you got to fight for every dollar as a running back. He's holding the line at that $15 million a year number.
It's unreasonable in my opinion. He's a fantastic player, and does he deserve money north of 10 million? Sure, he makes that argument for sure. But 15 million, yeah, like you said, I think it has to be a negotiation tactic. The thinking that that's going to be the end result, I don't think it's really going to happen.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Tyler?
It feels like, I don't know. It's giving me vibes to like Stefan Diggs in the off season, where he just posts these cryptic things on social media, and it's like you don't know where his head is at. And I agree that I think a lot of it is negotiation to kind of show, because like he like retweeted or he commented it when Saquon got his extension, and now he's up to
Yep.
like 20 million a year or something like that. So he's like, time to pay up, stuff like that. And it's, for me, I love the guy, and I really want him to be on our team, but I don't want this kind of attention to our team. I don't want
Yep.
this kind of a quote unquote diva mentality where, yeah, you're worth being paid money, but everybody has a limit. And
Yeah.
so if we can get him, to a negotiated like around like a 12 to 13 million, maybe with like incentives to then get him up to that 15 million that he wants,
Yeah.
go ahead and rush for 20 plus touchdowns, go ahead and rush for over, like have a 1,500 or a 2,000 yard season. And yeah, we'll gladly give you bonuses in that regard. Granted, I'm not a GM. I don't know how that all works behind the
Yeah.
scenes, but
Sounds good to me, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I agree with that
Yeah.
pretty heavily. There is one other thing that you could give him a big incentive for, and my opinion is like if you said, if you can negotiate him down to 12 with incentives and have like what I'm good with, give him a $5 million bonus if we win the Super Bowl.
yeah,
Like if we win the Super Bowl, I don't give a what we do with the money afterwards.
Get rid
Yeah.
of it all.
we get one Super Bowl under our belt. Like just throw the cap out the door. I don't care. Give I'll throw in some of my money to these players. I'll put a second mortgage on
you
my
need?
house.
$200?
How about a nice Taco Bell dinner? I'll buy you one
Yeah.
of those. Yeah, so in other players that we have on our team that are either in the last year of their contract or we're looking to either extend or sign, a couple that we had mentioned, you guys had mentioned in the last episode were Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas. Benford, I think, is 100% deserving of an extension. That man is, I think, stat wise, probably the best defensive back, cornerback, whatever you want to call him in the league. So he is well deserved of an extension and a pay raise. Rasul Douglas, I know you talked about like re-signing him. I'm kind of indifferent on him. He's definitely getting up there in age, but he's still got the skill. I just don't think he has the speed. He's kind of feels like almost like where like Tre'Davious White was at the end of his time in Buffalo, where he's got the skill and he's there if he needs to be, but he's getting burnt by some of these younger, faster receivers. Like especially look at like the Kansas City game or other key games throughout the year where you just see Rasul was, a good step or two behind the guy that he was on man-to-man with. And so, I mean, is he good? Is he great? If we can keep him, sure. But, I'm not willing to move heaven and earth to extend him.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Christian Benford, I think we're going to extend him. I think this is one of those things where like Bean was like, you know what, Christian, let's wait till after the draft. We'll figure out your contract then. I've got the cap sorted out. I've got some free agents I want to sign, and after that we'll work together with your contract. We want to extend you. We want you here. Be a lifetime bill, all of that. So I think Christian Benford will get that done. And the fact that you have not heard a peep from him in during free agency, no, you haven't even heard anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just means that like there's some kind of agreement that's going to happen, and I'm not really concerned about whether or not we'll sign him. I'm confident we will re-sign him. As for Rasul Douglas, sorry, Josh, you wanted to say something about that?
No, I just think that's a great point. You have a top player in the league like that. If there's not conversations floating around, it's likely that, he's pretty pleased with the situation, whether it's been released or not.
Yeah, for sure. Things get out. Everything gets out. Like, I mean, obviously James Cook's an extreme example, but like you look at like a guy like T. Higgins or a guy like Jamar Chase, who did just resign, but or a guy like pretty much any of these top flight players in the league, you hear rumors, like you hear grumblings, you hear something. You've heard nothing about Christian Benford. So that means that he's pretty content, I think.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah. And then as for Rasul Douglas, I agree with you. I think Rasul Douglas is the guy we sign if we can't get anybody else. And my biggest problem with this offseason, one of my bigger problems with this offseason has been that we haven't gotten someone else yet. We have not signed any of the corners that I wanted to sign.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't signed Byron Murphy. We haven't signed DJ Reed. We haven't signed Charvarius Ward, and we haven't signed Carlton Davis. Those are like the 4 guys that I wanted over Rasul Douglas. And I don't know about Carlton Davis. I haven't seen that yet, but I know Byron Murphy, DJ Reed, and Charvarius Ward are off the table already.
Right.
So I am disappointed in Brandon Beane and the Bills for not signing one of those 3 guys, because I think having that shutdown corner opposite Christian Benford would make our defense incredibly good.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, what do you think that, that money could be more well spent? What do you think's in the mind of, the people moving the chess pieces on the other side?
Yeah, I think that they missed the boat. I think those guys signed with other teams, and Brandon Beane missed in not signing one of them.
Yeah, I think like the money, it's again like we're teetering on that cap hit. So I think he's just kind of seeing like what offers that these guys are receiving. Yeah, I don't know what happens behind closed doors if they have like these open conversations. They can see like, they just offered them 3 years, 50 million, whatever that is. But
right.
when it comes down to it, we're kind of like seeing these offers, and it's like, we're not willing to do that. So he's not even like bothering to put an offer in, because it's not going to be what these other teams are putting in. And so, I mean, it saves us to where we can then just have the money for, we've got 11, 12 draft picks this year.
Yeah.
So like where a lot of our money is going to be going to giving them their rookie contracts. And maybe holding out to where we do find, maybe not like the star cornerback, but at least a solid one. So,
yep. And I won't put it behind. I won't say Brandon Beane won't draft a corner in this draft, right? Mm-hmm. Like that could be his plan. He could see this draft class and be like, "Ooh, around 30, there's like 6 corners that I like," and that could be why he hasn't signed someone yet. It's a possibility, but I just think that having a second elite outside corner would make our defense incredibly good.
All right. Can we get into what I've been most excited about for this chat today?
Oh, for sure. What are you excited about?
I want to know who our new players on the team are, if we're going to be filling in any of those gaps, and if any of your predictions are correct.
Okay, yes.
Did I just call you out?
We're going to start with Josh. We're going to start with my correct prediction.
Okay. Oh, there's one?
Yep, there is a singular correct prediction.
Oh, good. Let's hope it's a good one.
And we are going to start there. Oh, it's a great one. The Bills have signed free agent cornerback Dane Jackson to a 2-year, $5 million contract. That is the one thing that I thought the Bills were going to do spectacularly. No, in reality, it's the one I was least excited about. It was like it was the most obvious thing in the world that was going to happen. Everyone in the world knew when that man was cut from the Steelers, I think, that he was going to re-sign with the Bills for a small contract because he's a Sean McDermott guy. So like, that is the one that I got correct.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get anything else correct.
I think it was one of those ones too. You kind of just at the end, you're kind of like, we've got these top 3 or 4 corners. Yeah. I mean, Dane Jackson's out there, sure, if we get him. So I think that's kind of what we harken back to, is that there was a lot of money on the table for certain players, and we just weren't able to or willing to pay that. And Dane Jackson, a guy that knows the system, he knows Beane, he knows Buffalo, so it's just an easy, cheap signing, I should say.
So although you're wrong on your other picks, are we happy? What was the result?
It was all right. It was all right. We had a decent off season. Yeah, I'll run through the main free agents we signed Josh Palmer to a 3-year, $12 million a year deal. We signed Michael Hoyt, an edge rusher. We signed probably the most exciting guy that we signed is Joey Bosa. We signed Derek Forrest, a safety / special teams player. We signed Larry Ogunjobi, who is a defensive tackle. And we signed Darrington Evans, a running back.
Okay.
All right. So circling back, the most exciting player we signed, Joey Bosa.
Yeah, Bosa, yeah. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, for sure. Joey Bosa has been oft injured, but you know what? Whenever he's been in a football game, he is an absolute game wrecker. So I like the flyer at a 1-year, $12.6 million for a Joey Bosa. Like that's a reasonable flyer for an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those like, hey, we're gonna give you 1 year, try it out, help the Bills get a Super Bowl and see how he does in our system and if he can stay healthy. I think kind of, he wasn't the dream edge rusher that you had hoped with either a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby, but it was still one that I was honestly surprised because was he released by the Chargers? Yeah,
he was released by the Chargers, and no one knew that he was on the table. Honestly, like everyone, I was so on the Myles Garrett hype train that I was the commander of that hype train. I wanted him so bad. I was like, Myles Garrett, yeah, let's go. Get out of Cleveland, come here, get out of that stanky state of Ohio and come to Buffalo, the state that we're not sure exists.
Yeah, I don't know what do you think happened there? Why did he end up staying there? Was it just
money?
That money, man.
Oh, it is always money. Like you could just tell, like he was definitely, he wanted the trade. He wasn't getting any like meetings with his staff. Like they were like holding out on him to even talk about a trade. And then they come back with he's now the highest non-paid quarterback player in the NFL.
Well, he is actually second highest because he was highest when he signed, and then the Bengals decided to open their coffers to Jamar Chase.
That's right. So if that happened today, right? The Jamar.
Yeah, that happened just today.
So
that Jamar Chase got re-signed.
Okay, yeah, I've been seeing that him and T. Higgins were kind of going back and forth on that. But anyway, yeah, Myles Garrett was. I see all these memes and these posts where it's like, I want to go and win a championship. And then the owner comes back with a huge sack of cash. And he's like, you know what? I'm fine with losing. So I think he can wipe away his tears of losing with his $100 bills. That'll just be lining his house. So
yeah. He's getting paid $40 million a year now. And like, you know what? If you're far be it from me to argue against getting paid $40 million per year just to win a Super Bowl. I mean, how awful would that be to get paid that much money?
Yeah.
He's getting paid more than every mid-tier quarterback other than like Trevor Lawrence.
And he deserves it.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely worth the money, and
for sure.
It's I know I'm referencing a lot of things, but I saw one post where it was like in the negotiation tactics, they're like, Myles, you got to keep you on the team. We're gonna give you a lot of money, and we're gonna get a Super Bowl winning quarterback. What they end up doing? They trade for Kenny Pickett, who is technically a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Oh my goodness. That is very funny.
Oh, that is spectacular. Oh my god.
Yeah, so again, I'm sad we couldn't get Myles Garrett, but I respect the man wanting the money because that at the end of the day, it is a business. These guys have the competitive nature, but they got to think about their future and what they can secure the most.
Let's move to Josh Palmer real quick. Honestly, I forgot who Josh Palmer was, but right up until we signed him. And then my dad was like, oh yeah, I've had him on my fantasy team like 5 or 6 years. And like, he's that guy on your fantasy team who, has a game here or there where you're like, damn, I wish I played him.
Mhm.
But most of the time it's like, oh, well, I think I should play the guy who consistently gets 10 fantasy points instead of the guy who every once in a while gets 25.
Mhm.
So that's how my dad explained him to me. And
Where's he coming from?
he is coming from the Chargers, I believe.
Okay.
Tyler,
Yep.
is that
Yep.
did I get that right?
Yep, he's from the Chargers, and I was in the same vein as you, Adam. When that got shared to a group chat I have with some friends that are also Bills fans, we shared that, and 2 or 3 of us went, "Who?" Like, legitimately did not know who this guy was. But then, like, I start seeing, like, obviously Bills Twitter. You start seeing some highlights from him, and you start seeing all the analysts giving like why, like, Josh Palmer will be a good fit for the Bills, and I agree with it, and I see that he's a receiver that gets good separation. He's got good hands, at least it seems. So I'm excited for it, and then I saw people were talking about it helps split the field up more because now he'll, along with like Keon Coleman, there'll be further downfield threats with these tall receivers because Keon, he's still young. He's got to work on that separation between receivers, but he's super tall. The man was a basketball star. Like, he can get that height. Palmer's got that like explosive speed that where he can get downfield and get open. And when you've got a cannon of an arm in Josh Allen, like, that's what he needs in some plays where he's just scrambling. He's like, I'm just going to throw it 50, 60 yards down the field and hope somebody's down there.
Yep. And one of the big things that I saw is he's one of the best players in the league at getting separation and man coverage, right? And that's the one place the Bills really struggled last year is when the other team went man and Josh Allen did not run the ball. The Bills receivers really struggled. Like, they did not get open very well. So I think it could be a very good move, but we'll see.
Yeah. There's question marks on it, right? But to Tyler's point, you don't really know how good a receiver is if the person throwing them the ball is not elite. Now that he's got an elite quarterback throwing it to him, maybe his true capabilities can shine and we end up getting more than we expect out of it.
Yeah. You might not know this, Josh, but you did a very subtle dig there to Justin Herbert.
I mean, I'm fine with that. As long as we have a good quarterback, I'm fine with a little bit of digging.
Kind of what I was thinking of too is like in the whole mindset of like when we said like who, like we don't know who Josh Palmer is. Like he's not like he's not that star receiver. He's not like, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, where it's like it's the name in receivers. But that's perfect for our system. We don't need that go-to receiver because that's not how our system worked. Like you look, Josh Allen's MVP season came from a year where we didn't have a Stephon Diggs or a number one wide receiver. And harken back to the everybody eats. You never know on the field then where we're going to go. Like I would rather have 4 or 5 people down the field that it could go to any one of them rather than being like, oh no, we're going to double triple team the one guy we know he's going to throw it to. So
100% agree with that. I would say I would love it if Keon Coleman develops into one of those guys. Like I'm not against having a number one receiver,
right?
But what I don't want is to overpay a guy who is no longer really a number one. Like you said in Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has been spectacular his whole career. He's old and he got paid too much for what he's worth, in my opinion. So like there weren't really those guys on the market. We talked about T. Higgins. He got tagged by Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not going to trade anyone to the Bills. There really wasn't another elite wide receiver out there. So getting a guy like Josh Palmer, who is a skilled player, has been a great player in a game here or there. I think it's a reasonable pickup. I think we needed depth at that outside wide receiver position, and he fit a need. So I think it was a good call. Like under the radar, not super flashy, good signing.
I agree.
Where did Cooper end up going?
He's still a free agent currently.
Actually, no. It was today or last night. He signed with Seattle. Sorry, wait. Are you talking Cooper Cup or Amari Cooper?
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper.
Amari, sorry.
Cooper.
Okay, my bad. Yeah.
Cooper Cup signed with Seattle? I didn't know
yeah,
that either.
Cooper Cup
Oh.
signed with Seattle. I think also randomly thinking of it too, because we're talking the Bills. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think, also signed with Seattle. And they've now got Sam Darnold. So I mean,
I was
Seattle
just
could
going
be
to
good.
ask if Geno Smith was still going to be there.
No, Geno got traded to the Raiders.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting moves.
But yeah,
Yes.
Amari Cooper is still a question mark because we just signed
Okay.
him to a 1-year deal, so he's a free agent. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's kind of one of those things where clearly we've made moves for receivers, and I mean, if we can get Amari for cheap, I'd love to keep him, but it doesn't look like that's
I
on
think
the
he's going to
table
be
anymore.
too expensive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 2 free agents that we signed recently, both on the defensive line. We have Michael Hoyt as an edge rusher. Very interesting signing. We'll get to that. Larry Ogunjobi at defensive tackle. Now, I don't know if the world knows this. I know the world knows this. I know Joshua does not. Both of these men, after we signed them, were suspended 6 games for performance-enhancing drug use.
What? Both of
Yep.
them?
Both.
Yep, both players.
So in an interview or a press conference with Mr. Brandon Beane, he said he knew about Hoyt. He
Yes,
knew
he
about that was going to be happening, and that's why they, but he's like, we've got him for a 3-year deal. Like we'll figure it out. He did not know about Ogunjobi.
Ogunjobi.
He did not know about him, and so he's like, that kind of threw it for a whirl. And I believe both of them have claimed that they did not know. They all work with trainers, they work with athletic staff.
Right.
Some of them have their own private trainers, they have their own private like medical situations. And I know at least Hoyt, he said that he put his faith and trust in a trainer, that he was given the right, supplements, IVs, all these things that players take, which isn't, uncommon. They take a lot of different things to stay healthy and to stay, keep their bodies, intact. And I think it was testosterone he tested too high
for sure.
Yeah. So, there was something within what he was given. So he was, it's one of those situations where like, I believe him. I want to believe him. Like that doesn't seem like, with how strict they are with PEDs, like they don't want, a player wouldn't want to risk, the suspension and losing money or losing a starting position because of that. So, I have to believe him in that regard.
What do these boys look like? Do they look like they should have known they were on some stuff, or
Are
they huge?
They're edge rushers, they're defensive line guys, which they're naturally they're naturally big people. So
right.
It's not like, when you look like the MLB and you go back to like the steroid, use of like the 90s and whatnot, where you just saw these guys where it's like, Barry Bonds went from this like very average looking man to this human, refrigerator beast. Like it's
so he's not like a Ray Lewis looking man.
No. And like, that's the thing is like a lot of these guys, like when you get these types of things, it's not like what it was with like the steroids where like they're just like massive, but they do have these extra little, levels in their system. I'm not a doctor. I'm not on these things that understand the real differences, but it's not like a night and day.
I understand what you're saying. Just I was just curious what these guys look like. But yeah, no, obviously, I don't promote PED use, and I find it interesting that the Bills are willing to sign, even though they knew some allegations were there for Hoyt. But at the same time, I'm sure that these athletes, there's a legal limit of different supplements for a reason, and I'm sure a lot of them do have very well paid and experienced trainers responsible for giving them the amount that is supposed to be safe, that's going to get their recovery maximized, and things happen. So hopefully it was just an innocent thing, and we can move past it.
Yeah. I went ahead and sent you a shirtless picture of Michael Hoyt on Discord.
Ooh.
And if you look, he does look like a big human, but he does not look like a roided up human, right? Like he's not like a bodybuilder type build. He's, dad bod for sure. But the dad bod like Daniel Cormier, where He's man in the grill, and he is the one guy you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, still a scary human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need abs to be able to smoke somebody on the field.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, even though we have obviously this unfortunate situation where they're going to be out for a third of the season, I still think they're good signings. Hoyt seems, at least in his interviews, he seems super excited to be here. He seems like a good personality. I think though that because of the situation, I already theorized we're going to be defensive heavy in our draft this year. I think this is just going to further enforce looking for a young stud on the defensive line that we can then grow into, be trained by these guys to mentor under, Ed Oliver and other staples in the Bills line.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think we're going to be defensive heavy in the draft. Not just because of this, but this has definitely impacted it. I think this will make it more likely that we'll keep some of those later round picks rather than trading forward and draft some defensive linemen that can hold the fort until these two guys get back. Ogunjobi, typical 3-tech, like he's going to play when Ed Oliver's not on the field, and I like him as a player. The guy who I want to talk more about, though, is Hoyt, because he is such an interesting player in general. He is getting comparisons to Lorenzo Alexander, which I love. We love Lorenzo Alexander and the Bills. The reason being is he's played every position other than safety on the defense, right? He has played defensive end. He has played defensive tackle. He's played linebacker. He has lined up as a cornerback against DK Metcalf and won the rep. Okay. So the man can do anything on defense, which I am super excited about. I love that idea. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want my big men on DK Metcalf very often. But the fact that he has the ability to do it, I really like the player in general. I think he could be a Swiss Army knife. And let's be honest, the first 6 games of the Bills season, as long as we win 4 or 5 of them, they don't matter that much. Right. It's the last 6 games that matter. Going back to the free agency, the only guys that we haven't really talked about that are new free agents are Derek Forrest, a safety special teams guy, and Darrington Evans, a running back guy who we signed for depth, and they're fine. They're players who aren't very expensive, and yeah. Do you have anything with that? I've got nothing really to talk about with them. They're just quality depth players.
Well, I have questions for you guys. I mean,
okay.
It seems as though free agency has been a little bit underwhelming for the Bills so far. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's certain players that we're keeping on the team, such as, Shakir and Josh Allen, that are going to be, major impacts. But at the same time, is there still time for us to make a move to get another key player in there? Or are we just kind of filling holes with, some mid-tier people?
Yeah, I have one guy in mind. What do you think, though, Tyler?
Yeah, I think we're I don't know. It's tough to get in the head of like the GMs and like what they think what they're doing. I definitely feel like, at least going with the way Bill's social media, Reddit, all that is talking, is like they feel like there's still like a big move out there. I think we're trying to spend smart, spend to where we can feel comfortable that we're not putting all of our eggs in a certain basket. We're definitely focused on the defensive side, and that's what I think, and obviously what the team thinks, because that's where we've been focused. But I don't know, to be honest. So what were you thinking, Adam?
So there are 2 factors here. With everything that we've done in free agency so far, we have about $10 million in cap space left, and $10 million is about the right amount for signing draft picks and doing in-season maintenance, right? So you need about 6 to 7 to sign draft picks, depending on where they're drafted and how many you have. And then you need about 4 to 5 to just do in-season maintenance, in-season signings, things like that. Somebody gets injured, you need to pick someone up. It gives you the ability to make trades. So, like, I think where they currently are, we're pretty set. I think the overall free agency period was pretty good. There is one exception I'll make, and that is I still want that corner. There's one guy out there left, and it's Asante Samuel Jr., and he's being shopped everywhere. He knows he's the last corner on the market, and he is looking for that money, right?
Yeah.
So I'm willing to sign Asante Samuel Jr. I don't think he is I don't think he's the elite talent that I think like DJ Reed would have been, right? Like I still think DJ Reed, I still wish we signed DJ Reed. All jokes aside about Myles Garrett and everything else, I think that is the biggest miss of this free agency period by Brandon Beane is not going and getting DJ Reed. So I think we need that corner. If we get that corner, if we get Asante Samuel Jr., or we sign Rasul Douglas as the smarter, less expensive option, which is likely, then our team is full. We have a full team, and we can just do what every GM wants and draft the best player available in the draft, right?
Yeah. And I think that kind of what you talked about, it sounds like we're making most of our moves on the defensive side of the ball. And so maybe my feeling underwhelmed by the free agency is wanting more than the offense needs. I mean, we consistently put over 30 points on every team that we face pretty much. And so, maybe the fact that we didn't make a huge play by getting a top tier wide receiver isn't what we need. Maybe Joshua Palmer can be that guy enough to, bolster us in a way that Amari Cooper was doing previously, maybe not to the same extent. And hopefully the moves on the defensive line, especially, are really, the moves that we needed to make. I hope that they made the good decisions up in the think house.
Yep. Agreed for sure. All right. Moving on from the free agents that we signed, let's talk about the guys that we decided not to keep on our team. We decided to cut Von Miller, Mitch Trubisky, and Sam Martin. And then we decided to trade Kaiir Elam. I think all of those were reasonable moves personally. What do you guys think?
I think it's fine. I mean,
yeah.
We've already discussed our thoughts on Elam. Trubisky will get another backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And who drew a blank on the first name that you said?
Sam Martin. He is a punter. So he is our punter.
Okay. Oh yeah, our punter. Yeah. So I mean, all replaceable positions. Nobody that's going to significantly impact us that we can't replace with a draft pick.
Yep. And Von Miller for sure. We needed the cap space, and Von Miller is not the player we wanted him to be. He was not worth an extra $8 million on our team.
That was a sad situation, though, because we got a glimpse of what we thought Von Miller was going to be for the Bills at the wrong time,
For sure.
Yeah, no, I agree that with all of those cuts, I'm not really shocked or surprised by the Von Miller. It was one of those things where I thought it was maybe going to happen last year. And then going into this year, like you guys said, and we agreed, like if you can get him for the vet minimum, sure, keep him. But other than that, just bite the bullet and move on, and obviously hope the best for him wherever he goes. Sam Martin, not really heartbroken there. I mean, I think he was a good punter in terms of like his average yards. But in our hope that I don't think we might still have a punter on our team. But like the current, joke is that, why do you need a punter if you're just going to score every time? This just it just incentivizes us going for it on fourth down every time.
I don't need a punter. I need a holder.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, so that's hopefully, whatever punter you have, hopefully, they can punt the ball, but you want them to be an expert holder for Tyler Bass.
Yeah.
Trubisky, he's just he's a good guy, but not really necessary. The thing is I know you usually talk that a quarterback, a starting quarterback, really loves their backup quarterback, not because like they feel like they can easily be like replaced with them, but just because like they're a really good like teammate and a good person to help them see the ball, see the play like they do. And I know like Josh Allen really liked Mitch Trubisky and likes working with him. But I know we signed Mike White, I believe, is our next guy in
Yeah,
line there.
he's got a futures contract,
Yeah,
so I think that means like it's basically like, oh, you're on the practice squad, but like not officially.
right.
That's the
You're
futures.
you're
Yeah.
with the organization, but you're not like you're not going to be guaranteed to be on the field
Yep.
for anything. And then yeah, trading Elam, that was something that yeah, I remember. I believe it was last year in the playoffs when we played the Steelers in the wild card. Um, Elam came in and he was getting beat. He gets a pass interference call in like the end zone, and then the next play he gets an interception in the end zone. And I remember being so hot and cold on this guy. I was
Yeah.
like, drop him, I don't want anything. I'll suffer the money. And then I'm like, all right, sign him, extend him now. Like it was just so back and forth with this guy. And then this past season really solidified it. Every time he was in, it was just you literally just kind of like you could just tell it was just like I can't watch this, especially in that
Yeah.
AFC Championship game when he had to come in for Benford. There were plays where he was just falling over himself. He was not being close, and there's kind of one of those things where you got to admit that hey, he was a draft bust. He was our number one draft pick 3 years ago or something like
Yep.
that. So you kind of be like, well, he didn't pan out. And we were able to, trade him, hopefully to a better situation where he can have a starting position on the Cowboys. And we got traded him and a pick for it, and then we got 2 picks for it. So
Correct. So
uh,
we traded Kyrie Elam and a 6th for a 5th and a 7th.
yeah, so and I think that 7th is 2026, if I'm not
I believe
mistaken.
you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we gained one more pick this year, which is great, and another pick next year. So
Yeah.
it's it's good. It's good in that regard. I don't feel any sadness with
Yeah.
letting any of these players go.
Look, with Kyrie Elam in particular, I'm surprised we got what we did, honestly. The biggest problem with Kyrie Elam is because he was a first round pick, his salary this year is fully guaranteed unless you trade him.
Mhm.
So we got $2.5 million of salary cap relief by trading him, where we would have had we would have had to pay an extra $2 million on our salary cap this year if we wanted to cut him. So like he was a legitimate liability on our team, and the Cowboys bailed us out. So he was an impossible cut, and we were able to trade him for. I was willing. This is gonna sound dumb. I was willing to trade Kyrie Elam and a 6th for a 7th, right? Like
Jeez.
I
thought
would
he was
have
that much
gone
of
into
a-
the negative to trade Kyrie. So
You think he was that much of a risk on the defense side of the ball?
I think he's an absolute liability on the defensive side of the ball. I think
Wow.
sure he made a good play here or there. The problem is whenever he was in the game, if he was against a good wide receiver, he would get a penalty. He would blow a coverage. He would get a
Right.
pass interference, and then maybe he'd get a pass defensed. Or like you said, he got that interception in that Steeler game, right? Like he had some electric plays, but he was too much of a liability when he wasn't making a good play.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I saw somebody like posted stats, and it's true that so of our corners and our safeties over the last couple of years, Elam leads our team in postseason interceptions. Funny enough, with 2, granted, but still, like those are 2 uh, moments in between a whole laundry list of, like you said, pass interference, blown coverage, all these things. So it's kind of like, yeah, you did good when you kind of needed to, but you fell short when we really needed you.
I guess that's something Brandon Bean could have used with the Cowboys to sell him on the trade.
Yeah, they showed his 2 or 3 highlight reels, and then he
Yeah.
was like, "All right, here you go." And I mean, that's another thing. The Cowboys, they say every offseason, they're like, yeah, we're all in on free agency. And I don't think they've done like anything from what
No,
I've seen.
The Cowboys are not a good team this year.
Yeah.
We're gonna be a
So-
good team
They
this
did
year.
something right for us. So.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, Jerry Jones, for this trade.
Yes.
All right, now that we've wrapped up the casualties from the free agency this year, why don't we go ahead and have any last thoughts on free agency thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I just in general think that Bills had a solid free agency, right? Like we did a lot of the maintenance moves that we needed to make, right? Like the players on our team that we needed to pay, the players on our team that we needed to maintain relationships with. We've done a lot of those moves. We've re-signed a lot of our own guys, and we've kind of filled out our roster with just a solid crew. Nothing splashy, nothing really too big to write home about. But you know what? Just maintain, right? When you're a top 4 team in the league, maintenance might just be the best way to go, right? So that's kind of what I think we did this year. What did you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I think we had a pretty good free agency. You know, no, we didn't make any huge moves, huge splashes, which, like you said, I don't think is necessarily a need at our point. We had holes we needed to fill, and I think for the most part, we got those, or at least we have some, you know, things that are nearing there. You know, for the last 5-6 years, we've been 1 or 2 games away from the Super Bowl, and so you just kind of, you know, you don't want to, you know, go scorched earth on your team if you're in that area. So just kind of fill these holes, get the new players that you can hopefully put some faith and trust in. Don't need to go crazy and signing anybody to some ridiculous deals. I think all the extensions we did for our core players is phenomenal to keep them, you know, like Josh Allen, keeping them through 2030. You know, I think that's everybody there is going to be super happy with that. And, you know, now just look forward to the rest of free agency and then whatever we plan to do in the draft.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Buffalo Bills filling those holes.
I had a feeling that it was going to be said. The way we both said it, I'm like, oh no.
No, but in all seriousness, I'm happy to see the players that are coming back to the Bills for next year. My biggest, sad moment is seeing Mac Hollins go over to the Patriots, but at the same time, I'm excited to see what the changes in the Bills defense especially does for us, because, upon second thought of it, like you said before, we might just need maintenance on the offensive side of the ball. How can you, think that you need to make drastic changes when you're scoring 30 points every single game?
Yeah.
And so the right moves were hopefully made, and we'll see that going into the season. With that said, we appreciate everybody tuning in to the One Life Bills podcast today. If you enjoyed what you saw today, make sure you hit the subscribe, like button, and throw on notifications, and we'll be back to you soon with more Buffalo Bills news.
Yeah, and if you disagreed with us at all, just throw a comment down there. Let us know where we messed up. It's the best way for us to learn.
So, and I just want to say
Right,
thank you guys for having me on the episode. It's
Yeah,
nice,
of
nice
course.
to be on here with you, and hopefully I can get to join in on other future episodes.
Yeah, for
a
sure.
wealth of Buffalo Bills knowledge. It was great having you on.
All right, gentlemen, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Peace.